gonna be starting. But I'm actually gonna, I think that most people are in the class right now. But yeah. So last class we basically, I think we just did the 13th lecture where we started going over methods and like the syntax for methods. And we didn't, I don't think we got to finish this, so we're probably just gonna first try to go through the 13th lecture, and then we can try to do some of 14 if we have time. But so before last class we did look at the date. I think we looked at the date, the Java date library. Although I feel like this is not super useful for us right now because there's a lot of stuff in it that required like knowing more about objects and classes, and I think that most people here do not have like an advanced understanding of that, or just don't know too much about how objects and classes work, which I feel like it's more important if we first know how that works. So we did have the date, there's a date API for the, and then we did like go over how to like instantiate a date object and just like get the current date and stuff like that. But oh yeah, and then like the class from a few weeks ago, we did like learn how to get like using like methods such as get time, and then also like other stuff. However, I feel like most people probably won't really understand this because a lot of this is just more like having to do with like objects and classes, and a lot of people don't really know the syntax for that yet. So I think that we should first be learning that in more depth. But basically, the date class in Java, like I'm just gonna quickly review it in case anyone forgot, but like there's a there's several constructors. The very like general constructor that doesn't accept any arguments or has no parameters. This one just initializes the object with the current date and time. So it'll just set like the instance variables for like whatever it has as just the current date and time. And then there's also another date constructor where that accepts a variable that's like a millisecond, and then it's of type long, and this one just accepts an argument that is the number of milliseconds that have passed since January 1st, 1970. And I don't think, other than that, like most of these are just like methods in the API that you can look at yourself. If you just copy this link, I'll send it again in case anyone is curious, but most of it is just like showing the methods and different constructors in the state class. So yeah, there's several constructors that you can use, and then there's a lot of different methods that just like tests, like for example, this one returns like true or false depending on if the date that you give it is after the specified date. And then there's just like compare to, which is just I'm not sure if you guys know what interfaces are yet, but there's the comparable interface, and if it uses compare to, it's because it implements that interface, so it can compare two different dates, and like for each class it's like kind of different because you can override it. So this one compares two dates for ordering, so I'm guessing for this class it's just going to compare like if the current date is like before or after like the date that you give it or something like that. But yeah, that's just like a quick review of the date class. But if you want to read more about it, I did send the link in the chat. But I think that okay, so for the first one, how do you compare two dates? As I just shown, there's a compare to method in the date class that you can just use that to like compare like two different dates. And I don't think you guys will really like know too much about this for now, so I'm probably just I'd rather like go through methods and like classes, like teaching more about that first before like getting into this stuff. So as I talked about last time, method is just also called a function. It's just a block of code that performs certain actions. It only runs when it is called, so it basically provides a way for you to reuse code, so it reduces duplicative code, so you don't have to like just type the same thing a bunch of times. You can just call a method basically. And you can pass data, which are like parameters, into the method, but the method doesn't need to have parameters. You can choose whether or not you want to have parameters. And methods are bound to a class and they define the behavior of the class. So in a class, there's like the behavior and then there's like the state of the class, like state of the class is just like the fields, like the instance variables. Behavior is like the methods, like what the class can do. So for example, we have a class called like dog. Oh, my bad. Okay. If we have a class called dog, for example, the state or like the fields that the class would have would be like the dog's like age, the dog's weight, or like the dog's height. And then like the behavior could be like methods that the dogs can do, such as like barking or something like that. So that's just kind of the difference. And the method has to be declared within the class. So it's defined with the name of the method and then followed by parentheses. So for example, last time I'm pretty sure I went over this, but this is just the main method. So in Java, when you want to like actually like run something, you need a main method. So you need like this syntax public static void main. And then this is just like the main method. And it basically is like the driver like method or like driver class, I guess. Like you just need that you need this method if you actually want to like run anything basically. So the first curly bracket defines the beginning of the main method. And then the last curly bracket that looks like this is the ending of the method body. So they both together tell the system that this is the main method block. So yeah, that's just like for like style, but you actually don't need like curly brackets for some things. So like, but like usually you do want to use this because it makes it like look more readable. So I went over this last time, but just to review, in general, a method has 6 components. So there's a access modifiers such as like public, protected, private, and default. So like public, I feel like most people right now are just gonna say call a method like public because they don't really know the other modifiers, but public just means that the method you can like use in basically all of your like program, which is not very safe. Like it's kind of bad to do that when you get like later on, but for now I think it's fun. And then there's protected, which means that only the subclasses or any classes within the package of the protected members class they can use. But I don't think you really know what this is right now because this has to do with like inheritance. I'm not sure if you know what a subclass is, but so for now, I think you're probably just going to be using public most of the time. There's private, which means that it's only visible within the class. So you can't like access it outside the class, basically. Default, it means it's accessible within the same class and package. That so if you have like multiple classes under the same package, if you use default, all those classes can use that method. And then there's also return types. So the data type or the value that is going to be returned by the method. So I'm going to try to show an example. So for example, okay, for example, so like here, if it says void, it means that you're not returning anything. So like this right here says void because you're not going to return anything from this method. You don't return any sorts of values. So in that case, you don't have to write a return statement, but if you do, you can just like say return like that, but you don't need to because it's void. And then otherwise there might be like, you can return something of type int or like type short, basically anything, any of the like you can basically just like return any type, but then you do have to include a return statement that returns an object or something of that type. Otherwise it doesn't work. Method name is just like, you can call it whatever you want. So here the name of the method is just remove values between. So that's just the name of the method. You can call it whatever you want, though that one doesn't like really require anything, but you do want to name the method something that is like actually useful, like so that you'll know what it is when you're like calling it later on. And then there's a parameter list. So as an example, here, this is the parameter list. So accepts two values of type T, and you can call it, you can name it whatever you want. Like I just named it like from value and to value, but they're just two values. But then you do have to say the type in front of it. So like, for example, like int, short, or like anything basically, that's a type. And then if you don't have any parameters or you don't want it to like accept anything, you can just use empty parentheses. And then also in some cases, if you know the method might throw an exception of some sort, you should include that in the method signature. Like okay, like here, because I know this method might throw an index out of bounds exception, so I just included throws like index out of bounds exception at the top, because you know it could potentially do that, so you just want to include that. But usually I think you're not going to be writing methods that have exceptions, so. And then the method body is just like whatever's in the braces. So like what's between here and here, basically. And then this is just another example, like that just shows it in more detail. For example, like this method is just called max. It's a public method, so it can be accessed anywhere in the program. It returns an int, and then it accepts two ints, x and y, and then this is the body. So method signature consists of the method name and parameter list, and the return type and exceptions are not considered a part of the signature. So this example of the method signature of the function we just saw, it would just be max int x and int y. And then when a parameter is actually passed into the method, it's called an argument. So yeah, so the thing itself is just called parameter, like this, but then like when you pass when a parameter is passed to the method, then it's called like an argument. And then there's also method overloading, which means that you have like multiple methods in your class, but they have the same name, but they have like different parameters. So this would be an example of polymorphism. So polymorphism is just like when your methods can do different things, but they have like similar names, for example. But like I'm not really sure if you guys would know too much about it now, but there's method overloading would just be compile time polymorphism, because when it's like compiling, the computer already knows that they're like supposed to do different things, but like runtime polymorphism would be like overriding. So for example, this is method overloading. So here we have something that's called my method. And then it accepts an int and it returns an int. And then we have another method that's called my method, the same name, but it accepts a different parameter. So these are, they're all like called the same thing, but they just have different parameters. And that's just what like overloading is basically. Same thing, but this one could have some problems because double and ints, like an int can be a double, like, so although this works, there could be some like confusion with it later on, but yeah, this is an example of also overloading. They're both called getsum, but this one accepts ints and this one accepts doubles. And then how to call a method, you need to create an instance of a class and then call the method. So you can call the method as many times as you need, but you just have to have made an object of that class already. So like the class is called first Java, and then we made an object called myCLS, and it's just of that that class. And then to call the method, we just do mycls.getSum, which gets, this will just call the method. So you do need to have made an object of that class first. Hold on a second. I need to get some water. Okay, so sorry about that. So to okay, so this is another way for like the parameters. So 3 dots in the following method parameter list means that 0 or more string objects or array them can be passed as the arguments for that method. Like this is an example. So they had like 3 dots after the string. After they wrote string is like the type that it accepts. So accepts like whatever you put in, it has to be of type string. So then he said 0 or more string objects or an array of them may be passed as arguments. So you can have like multiple string objects or 0. So a vararg is specified by 3 ellipses, 3 dots after the data type, and its general form is basically this. So this is like the API for it. So I'll just like look at that. Okay, so basically you can use a construct called varargs to pass like any number of values to a method basically. And you can use this when you don't know how many of a particular type of argument will be passed to the method. And it's a shortcut to creating an array manually. And yeah, so then basically it's like the syntax for it. You just like do like the type of the parameter and then like 3 dots and then a parameter name. The method can be called with any number of that parameter, including none. So I think this is kind of like similar to that thing in Python, like the the kwargs thing, which is also like where you can like, it'll take it's like just kind of similar, but yeah, it basically just like accepts like multiple like you can put in like multiple like parameters of the same type. If you just have the 3 dots and it turns into like an array for you. Okay, so the argument that gets the 3 dots must be the last in the method signature. So so this first thing would work because you have int I and then string, but then it's like 3 dots and strings is okay, but my method with string 3 dots strings int I is not okay because this last thing is int, not string, so that wouldn't work. Okay. So I think we're doing an exercise now. So it's just saying to write a method that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius. There's a conversion online that I can search up quickly. Yeah, it's saying convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. So the method should take in a double value and then returns a double value. And then you can just call this method twice, like in your main method with 2 values. Multiply by 905 and add 32. So Celsius to Fahrenheit is multiplying by 9/5 and adding 32. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'll go back to the method I mean the slide on how to create methods. So this is the syntax here. Basically, the first thing should be like the modifier, like access modifier. It's fine if you just use public because it doesn't really matter for us right now. And then has to be the type that will return. For us, it will be double because we want to return a double. Then the name of the method can be whatever, and then it should be prepare parameters. It should accept a double. That's the number that we want to turn to Celsius, I believe. Uh, okay, so it wants to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. So yeah, if you want, you can screenshot this too. But yeah, I'll probably give like at least like 5 to 8 minutes for you guys to do this. Like probably like 8 minutes, I guess. And then when you're done, just copy and paste your code to the chat. Okay, can we initialize the method? Yeah, I think you can put in the main method. But I mean, I think I prefer to put it outside of the main method. Oh wait, no, I don't think you can do that. Just like put it outside the main method, like it. So first, like put your method that like we want to do, like the converting Fahrenheit to Celsius, and then after that, just like write the main method syntax. Okay, so I think it's about 6:34, so I'm just gonna go over now, and I guess like no one was able to do it, or like no one could like if I guess like no one was able to figure out, but I'll just show like how I would do it. So first I'm just gonna go to this, this one. Okay, so you technically don't really need to make like another method for it, but I guess they want you to. So um first of all, it's saying it takes in a double value and returns a double value. So I guess oops. So it's oh wait. Okay, so I'm gonna just like have it return a double. I'm gonna call it conversion, I guess, and then double. We can just call the variable like var. Um, so now right here saying it has to return a oh okay. Oh, I think Lucas is trying to get in, so I'm gonna try to let him join first. Okay, so it's already off the bat saying you have to have a return statement that returns something of type double. So we will implement that. But first, it's gonna take in a Fahrenheit, like something that will be like the Fahrenheit that we want to convert to Celsius. And then we should just have like Celsius. We just say, and then the formula was I put it in chat, but um it's just a Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5/9. So Fahrenheit times 5/9. And then we can just return whatever Celsius is. So this is pretty short. You can make it even shorter, just like return it all in the same line. But I just wanted to like make it more clear to show what's going on. So we first like the return type is double, so we wrote double here. The name of the method is just called conversion. You can name it whatever you want. And then the name what accepts the method accepts something of type double that's also it's just called Fahrenheit, but it's going to be like something that you that's going to be like a Fahrenheit. And then oh hello. Oh, I thought someone said something. Okay. So oh hello. Okay. Then how we calculate it is just like remember Fahrenheit to Celsius, just Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5/9. So that's what it is, and then we just return that. So now here we're gonna call it twice. So let's make a double like F, and like let's have it equal to I guess like 80 or something. And then we can have a double F, another double variable, and then we can have it equal to like 95. So these will be two variables, and they're supposed to be in Fahrenheit. So now we need to convert them to what's it called? To Celsius. So let's do um, let's do testing. If these were static methods, then we wouldn't even need to make an object. Like I could just do public static double, but I guess like for the sake of showing like, because I think they want to like, oh yeah, you're good. Okay, because I think they want us to like be using the object to do it. So I would just make an object with the type testing because the class is called testing, so I just like called it that. And then this is just how you instantiate it. And since I don't have like a constructor or anything in here, like I just don't put anything there. And then I'm gonna call the conversion method. So c dot conversion, and then it pops up right here. So we can first put an F and see what happens. We want to print it out because we didn't like, otherwise we won't see anything. And yeah, so then we're gonna call it a second time for now, the one for the second variable. Theta conversion. Oh shoot. And then yeah, so now we can just run it. Oh shoot, I think I did something wrong with Fahrenheit times. Wait, I might honestly need to close it. Okay. Close see that conversion. Okay, yeah, so it returned the like this is I mean if you this doesn't look very good because it's like there's a bunch of decimals, but you could like probably also do a way to like round it down like using some formatting or something, but yeah, this is basically just what it would do. It just returns like the thing as like a double. So yeah, that's just how you would do it. So you just have it like the method up here. I mean, you could also just do all this in the main method, but I think they want us to make like a separate method. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about that, just let me know. And just like remember, this is like the syntax for like making a new object. So you have to have the class name, like so it's like this is the type. So the class is called testing. So we just the object is of type testing, and then we just call it whatever. Oh, we call it whatever you want. 1 second. Yeah. Okay, call it type, we call it C, and then like whenever you want to call a method, you have to do like C dot conversion. However, if this was like static, we don't actually, because then look right here, it says it can be accessed in a static way. So change access. You don't even need to like, if it's like static, it's not associated with an object. So you don't even need an object to call the method. But if it's not static, you need to actually make an object first before calling the method. Otherwise, it won't work. So I can also paste this into the chat if people want to see this. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions about that, just type in the chat and I can like answer it, but. Create my digit, find the small digit. Turn null on the right of the code to take in. This one, the instructions are kind of vague. So it says create a method to find the smallest digit. If there's no digit, return null. Then write Java code to take in user input. User can input anything. Use the user input as the argument to the method that you just created. So they might be saying like if you like input an array of like ints or some of like numbers and like it's find the smallest digit from there. Or I'm not really quite sure what they're asking, but I guess like if they want to like take in an array and look for the smallest number in there. I mean, I guess I can show an example of how to do that as well. So I feel like people don't really understand this completely yet, so I guess I'll just like show more examples first. Oh, so this is what I was talking about before. So static, so static member basically like if a method is static, it's not associated with a class, so you can actually call it without making an instance of that class. So you don't need to make an object to call a static method. Without, if it's not a static method, it's a non-static method, which just means like instance method. So it just means that you need to first make an object of that class before you can call the method. And every object that's created from class has its own copy of the instance methods of that class. I'm gonna try to show like some sort of diagram that will show it more clearly. Okay. So for example, like this is an example. So the class is person. The members, which are the instance variables, are like the name, the age, and stuff like that. And then methods are like eat, study, sleep, play. So these methods are like instance methods probably because they're associated with that class. Okay. So basically, whenever you're going to make a class of type person, whenever you're going to make an object of type person, they're going to have their own like instance methods, like these methods is what they're saying basically. So basically, but the thing is with the static method, you don't actually need to make an object of the class to access the method. You can just call it directly without doing like the object name dot like method name. Static methods cannot be overridden, but they can be overloaded. So once again, method overriding is when you have like, for example, a subclass and then like the subclass inherit like, and then so the parent class had like some method. And then the subclass has a method with the same name, but you don't have to add at override, but it's usually better if you write at override at the top. But then this subclass method can actually have like do something different from the parent class, but it just has like the same name. So that's just like polymorphism. So then like it's good because like when you're calling like that method, it will like change depending like what it does will be different depending on whether it's an object of the sub or parent class. So like that's basically what the point is. But I think we're getting a bit ahead. So I'm just going to show like more just like how to make methods. So if there's no, I guess this is just saying like given an array of like numbers, if there's no digit, return null. Okay. I'm going to make a method that just like finds the smallest number in an array, I guess. So basically, yeah, it's gonna return an int, which is the number that's the smallest one in the array. I think that's what it's saying. Okay, so I guess we can just do like a for loop and then just go through the array. Okay. Oh. And then let's see what it's saying again. If there's no digit, return null. Well, okay, so it's saying to return null, but it's saying to find the smallest digit. I'm guessing they mean like just return 0 because you can't really return, because if it's like returning something of type int, it can't return null. That would have to be like integer or something. I'm just gonna say return 0 if you don't find anything. And then I guess we can just like for each element. Oh wait, actually it should just be set to, yeah. So this is what I would do. So like we're given some, so this method will just accept an array of ints, which is different from integer. This is a wrapper class for ints. So it's first going to just set the smallest digit as like the first element of the array, whatever that is, and then just like iterating through the array, if whatever's that array of I is smaller than the smallest thing, then smallest is not going to be equal to that, and then it's just going to keep going through. And then let's see what they're saying. So our job is you can use an input. Use the user input as the argument to the method they just created and print out the term. Okay. So then they're saying like, we're gonna make an object type testing. So it says the user can input anything. So we need to do something of like, okay. I guess like if the input is like null or something, then like just don't like do it is what it's saying. User can input anything. Oh, so if like the array is null, for example. Okay. Just return. Oh, let's say, okay, so what if the array is null or just like the array is like empty? Or r.length. Then just return 0. Okay. Use a user input as argument to the method that you just created. Okay, so let's say we have an array, and then I'll just like fill it with some values. Let's do C dot. Oh, okay, yeah, so it worked. So basically, we made a new object of type testing, and then once we had that object, I just made an array with a bunch of numbers. 0 is going to be the smallest. And then we just call that method we just made. So C dot, whenever you want to call a method, it's just the object name dot and then the method name. And then you put the array that we just made into it, and then clearly 0 is the smallest value, so then it just returns 0. But what if, let's try like something like, you just like put some invalid argument. And then let's try doing this, or let's see what happens if we put in something that's just an empty array. Oh shoot, yeah, then it'll just return 0 as well. But yeah, so that's pretty much like, I think that's what they were asking. And just like to find the smallest digit in an array, I'm guessing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you can just like, for now, you could just write the methods as public, but later on, usually people do write methods as private because you do want to limit the like visibility. So as we went over static methods, you don't need an object for that. They're not associated with a class. So you can use a static method if you don't have an object in that class. And static methods can be overridden, but they cannot be overridden, but they can be overloaded. Change one get some method to static and see what you run into. So if we change the method to static, your change to static member's value will impact other instances that also use this member, because the instance does not use its own copy of the member. It's at a class level. So for each class, I guess like the static has has like one copy, not like, whereas if you for each instance it has like its own copy. And these are just some differences between both of them. So instance methods can access the instance instance variables directly. And instance methods can access static variables and static methods directly. Static methods can access the static variables and static methods directly, but static methods can't access instance methods and instance variables directly. You have to use a reference and object. And this is because, like, if you think about it, if you just have a static method, it doesn't know, like, since it's just like it's at the class level, it doesn't know like what like a instance, it doesn't have an instance like it doesn't have an object associated with it. So how is it supposed to know like what the instance variables like are or whatever like that? They just don't know. So that's why it has to they use a reference to an object if you want to like actually know what the instance methods and stuff are. Static methods can't use this keyword because they're not associated with an object. So like, what is this referring to? There's no current object. So yeah, those are like some of the differences. Oh, and final keyword just means the member cannot be changed. So if you have something like final static something, like it just means like you can't change it after that. Like final things can't be, I don't think they can be like extended either. Like a final class cannot be extended. And then, yeah, if you call like a variable like final, like you just can't change that variable after you made it. So usually like things that you want to keep constant, you would call final. And when a method is declared with final, it's a final method. Final method cannot be overridden because, as you know, like final just means like it can't be like changed after. Just remember that the order for method is just first you write the modifier, the final static stuff, return type, and method name. But you can also say static final public, which is interesting, but generally it's just like this order. Okay, so I think it's just review from other stuff. I think we should talk more about methods still, so. See if there's like any quizzes. Okay. I think I'm just gonna go over the homework that I'm probably gonna assign for this time. Anyway, so that might actually be a bit confusing. So I think I'm gonna give something else. Taking two integer values. All right, so I think I'll assign this for homework. So this is just saying, this is just writing a get division method. So like I showed in class, just use like this type of syntax, like access modifier, like what it's going to return, like name. And you can also use static and then like the parameters. And then this method is just gonna, you want to include like throws in the method signature because it can throw an exception. So you want to include the throws. This method is just going to take in two integer values, so two ints as the parameters. The method is going to return the division of the first parameter over the second parameter. If no value is provided, so if they're both null, then use one as the default value to return. If the second parameter has a value 0, it just throws the exception. So you want to consider these like cases first. So you should first like check if the values are null. So like if no values provided, and then just like return 1. Otherwise, like if the second parameter, check if the second parameter is 0. If it is, then throw the exception. And then after you handle those two cases, just like do the rest, like regularly. And then in your main method, you're gonna call this get division. So you can either make it a static one, so where you don't need to use an object to call it, or you can just make it like an instance method. So I think there's like 1 minute left But if anyone has any questions about this exercise, I'm gonna post it as the homework. Please type in chat. But yeah, it's just gonna use this type of method syntax. Just I'll also like if anyone forgets, you can just like Google it, but like you can make your method public or private, it doesn't really matter. Or like yeah, and then just remember to call it in your main method. And the main method is like separate from the method that you're making. So yeah, so I'm gonna post this as homework in Google Classroom, but if no one has any questions about the homework or like what we did today, you're free to go. It's already 7, but otherwise you can just stay around and I can like answer a question.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me stop recording.